Well, hello, Sunitha. Thank you for
Hi,
your time.
Martina.
Thank you for talking to me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I kind of feel a little bit special that you asked me to be on your new normal podcast, webcast. What is this?
Let's see where it goes. Well, thank you for
Exactly.
being here as an expert to talk to today. What is your background, Sunitha?
So I am a chiropractor. And even though chiropractic is not very well known in the Netherlands, it is a growing profession, actually. So in America, in Australia, in the UK, we're part of one of the largest non-medical fields. So we say medicine and dentistry are the biggest healthcare professions, and then chiropractic is kind of the next one. So people don't really know what chiropractic is, so I'm going to try and explain that a little bit to you, I suppose, in our talk. Or actually, I guess why we have such a good working relationship, because a lot of people are familiar with physiotherapy or manual therapy, but chiropractic is a little bit separate from that. And I guess what I want to say is that what chiropractors try to do is actually look at the body and the brain as a whole system. So even though people normally come to us because they have an injury, our question is always, why did you have that injury? Not how did you injure it, but why? You know, why did you hurt yourself at this point in time? Is it something that's been accumulating for a long, long time? Or was it because of trauma? And most of the time it's actually because it's a chronic condition. And so I think that's kind of how we met, actually, because we shared a mutual patient. Do you remember? Or
Yeah, long time
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And actually it was a bit of an accident how I met you, because I was working at a gym at the time, and one of the trainers had said to her to come and see me because I was around the corner, because she was suffering from weakness in her hand. And when I was doing her assessment, actually, I found out that she'd had a traumatic brain injury, like a concussion, a few years beforehand, like quite a bad one. And really what I thought was that she had had a whiplash injury, and that was kind of now causing weakness in her hands. And it was only throughout that history that I found out that she had such a trauma. And she had a whole lot of other symptoms, actually, like nausea and difficulty reading and trouble with lights. But she didn't actually think that that was at all connected to her health, or that we could help with that, you know. And so when I explained to her that what the neck and how important that is to your balance, to your coordination, to talking to the brain, she said, oh, I'm going to tell my physio about you, because she's really been helping me since I had my concussion. And then that's when we met. You know, people underestimate how much your brain has to do with your body. So we sort of understand it when we get drunk and you can't walk properly and you slur your speech or you drop your keys, you know, that when you affect your brain, you affect your whole body. And that's really what chiropractors are best known for, you know, because people come to you for soft tissue injuries or when they hurt themselves or overuse. And that, I must say, is your strong suit, because I don't know anything about that system, about the, you know, say, for example, if I have to retrain something because of an injury or an acute attack of some sort, you're the person to see. But I think if it's something chronic and something that's in your whole body, in your system, then I think I can actually help them a little bit deeper, I guess.
And I think that's very good brought to the point, because we do look more at how did the injury happen, how did an overuse happen, and we go more quickly into an assessment and into the treatment. But most of times, like when I'm like, this is way too complicated, not just going over my skills, but because I know that is what you do, I send clients to you, because it's just a very good symbiosis of figuring out all parts of all the spectrum, right? And assess it and treat it.
Yes, exactly. And people, I mean, I think to have both on your team, on your health team, is really quite complete.
Yeah.
Because I don't know much about the latest exercises or the bands, because I don't keep up to date with that training. You know, there's so many things that you can learn how to do. Of course, you just can't do everything. So I try to keep focused on brain health, on people's neurological health. Actually, can you tolerate your environment? You know, and people should be able to handle their work life and their stresses. And if they can't adapt to their environment, then you're going to find yourself getting injured, getting sick, you know, having sleep problems. And, you know, so I think if people can exercise and get fit, then we're all okay. But sometimes they can't do that. So that's when I can help them to actually gain better quality from you. You know, it's not nice to go and train with somebody if they can never actually improve because they had something that was so chronic and kind of, and they never tell you. They never tell you, oh, by the way, 20 years ago I had this bad car accident. You sort of have to tease it out. You have to find it in their system, isn't it? Because people always think that it's something that happened last week or 2 months ago, not 10 years ago, you know. So I like that about my training, that you can almost the body never lies. The body never lies. So if I can assess the body, I can try and see whether we can get the body to kind of work better, you know, and for as long as possible, basically. Yes. So that's
and that's also why we chose to work with strength and conditioning trainers, also because even what you also say, like, we physios are not always equipped to do all the strengthening training, so we move on and try to just have a network of experts. But also the strength and conditioning coaches, they say, especially young men, or like men, they had a lot of sports injuries when they were younger and nobody ever thought it might affect them. But that's when you come in, because we're like, okay, there's some piece of the puzzle missing, and you, most of times, you can find it and solve it. And then
and I think if I can get your body functioning, then really, then they can go to somebody like you and you can actually grade their strength and get them stronger in a progression. Because when you have to do all of this stuff yourself, I mean, think of how long it took you to study to become a physio and me to be a chiropractor. It's actually a full-time degree and it is our profession. So you can't learn this stuff just off the internet or off a blog or off Instagram or because your friend's neighbor did this. It's, you know, people need to learn about what is their body and what best suits them at this time, actually, and what their goal is in the future, and to kind of go slowly and steady rather than go from nothing and then suddenly doing 5 CrossFit classes and then being surprised that they hurt themselves, or being surprised that they bend over to put on a shoe and they get a disc hernia. You know, how often do you have patients that hurt themselves doing nothing? It's very rare when they actually were doing something very heavy, right? It's often when they're just doing something that they weren't thinking about and they hurt themselves. So I always say that that's like the last straw that broke the camel's back. You know, these things have been kind of happening for a while. So it is my job to kind of get people constantly adapting and making sure that their body's always in the best condition. But that's complicated. It's not only about physical health.
Absolutely. And also, I hope that at this time now people, they do go back to expert opinions, right? Because what you're saying, there's such an overflow with social media, in the normal media as well, and that everybody has an opinion, but hopefully people slow down and do seek expert opinions, because there's no problem with asking an expert for help, right? And why would you not become the best version of yourself?
And now is the time, because I think what everybody has learned is that this little bug can really knock your socks off, right? I mean, people have been dying, people have been very ill. So how do you best protect your immune system? So it turns out it's a very, very important system. Yes, there's lots of things that you can do. It's not only ginger shots and turmeric lattes. There's actually much more important things like physical fitness, physical strength, enough sleep, you know, proper brain health, proper nutrition. So you have to actually go somewhere, I think, and then get a complete overview. And I can't do it all. So I like to also lean on people that I like to work with, that we have a similar philosophy in people. Because in my work, people are, say, quite passive, because you come down and then I do something to make your joints actually work better. I do something to make your brain works better. I give you exercises. And then you need to take your base and increase that capacity. And that's where you can come in and with your strength and conditioning coaches actually, you know, get stronger, get fitter, because of course you can never be too healthy, you know. And I think, like with all of these Zoom classes, it goes two ways. Either people have sort of thought, right, I have all the time, it's time for me to get fit, and then you can realize where your body is, or the opposite. If you have a family, like I have a little baby, it's like you have less time. You cannot do anything. So you also get a little bit deconditioned, you know. So I agree. It can give people a little bit of an idea of what's kind of important in their life at this time to move forward.
And so you also say, like, you work a lot hands-on. How do you cope right now? Because can you work from moment to moment?
No, I mean, not at all. I can give advice a little bit, general advice, but I can also only do that to people that I know that I've actually done a full assessment to, because like we were just saying before, if somebody calls me with a new complaint, I have to actually do a physical exam to try and see what causes pain or what causes weakness. I can ask questions and I could almost, you know, suss it out, partly because I've been working as a chiropractor for nearly 20 years, but at the end of the day, sometimes people surprise me. You know, I think it's this, and then you do a particular test and it doesn't cause pain, or they're quite strong. So I don't like to have surprises. So I can't actually see any new people or people that I've actually, you know, I can actually just give a little bit of advice, but it's very stressful because of course people hurt themselves and everywhere's closed and then you can't leave your house. So I'm not working at the moment at all. I mean, I'm trying to manage the business, of course, learn new rules about government rules, and my Dutch is improving. Yeah, so what about you?
Yeah, same here. I cannot work right now, and we try to do a little bit of online consultations, but you see that also for us, people are not really used to that. And like again, because we work with personal trainers and strength and conditioning coaches, like a lot of people have their active support already to work out. So when they come for us, a lot of time they come for like dry needling, taping, you know, passive treatments, or also some testing, ultrasound. So at the moment it's because also the same as what you say, we can just like take an anamnesis, but we cannot do an assessment of shoulder joint. I need to see not just from here, but from like all angles. So it's hard. Yeah, sure.
And again, if it's that active and passive thing, I mean, if they can leave it, if they can lift it, but then when you lift it, it's a passive range of motion. It's a completely different feeling, and you know. So I think also that's what people need to understand, like the big difference, because when you go and exercise and when you want to do something, your brain's making you voluntarily do it, but there's a whole other system of reflexes, of postural stability and balance, and you know, so those are the things that actually I need to make sure is in order also. So
and I guess also let's talk about even non-verbal communication, because I always have to laugh when there's these memes online where people wear a dress shirt on top and like just underwear or sweatpants underneath. And that's like a bit also like I cannot do an assessment when I just see somebody here, or you know, because I don't see the compensation pattern in non-verbal communication. So it's just so important.
Yes, exactly, to see whether they can, how was it when they took off their shoe, or sometimes I notice something as they're about to put on their jacket because they came in for a different problem, and then as they're going, they sort of, and then, you know, of course I can ask because it's within my scope of care. So I agree with you. Sometimes you can see things that you didn't pick up beforehand, especially when I see little kids, because they can't tell you, you know, that they've got a headache or whatever. So you sort of have to tease it out and ask them questions or make them do things, and then you can see quite obviously or quite quickly. So, and also personally, I miss seeing the people. You know, you know, I miss kind of having a human conversation and contact. And I used to hug my people, so I miss that.
I know. It's the social aspect of our job as well, right? And older, I don't know if you see a lot of older people. I have quite a lot of elderly that I also treat at home. And for them, it already makes the day when somebody comes to them and has a little chat, right? And that's, I'm wondering where that goes in the future, like how it will impact us. And like you have, do you have clients now that ask you for advice or for help? Like what are the people struggling now in your point of view?
Well, a lot of people are actually more sedentary because they've had to work from home.
Yeah.
And so in some ways they're spending the whole day in front of their screen. They don't have any breaks because when you're in a big office, for example, perhaps you bike to work or you had a meeting, or you might walk downstairs and have lunch and you have a face-to-face meeting. Whereas now everything is online. So the amount of light and the amount of sitting and the amount of actually screen time that you have is increased 200-fold.
Yeah.
So that affects some people more than others, of course, with sleep, with regards to your just your stress levels and things like that. So people are struggling with those things, actually: tired eyes, sleeplessness, maybe some headaches, some tension, because of course your seat at home is not your office setup, and of course it's a stressful time. It's super stressful. So a lot of people are also very stressed and anxious, and
Yeah,
and
I mean, imagine getting up, getting ready, and going to work. That is already most of times at least an hour where you are active, where you get yourself ready, and and for example, again, us as like manual workers, let's say, or our job is physical, and we're so much in front of the screen. I mean, and also speaking as an ex-client of you as well, like I know how you look at eyes and at the eye movement and tiredness. I feel like in the evening, I'm like, my eyes can barely stay open, and then I'm like, 8 o'clock, but it's literally just the screen and
all
all
of that, yes,
work.
all of that input. I mean, for me also, because I'm so used to walking around and being on my feet, now I'm more tired from actually not doing anything. And you think, oh, I'm going to be rested, but in some ways, before you know it, it's 5 o'clock, and then you've not done anything, and you're stressed trying to kind of organize food and dinner. Yeah, it's a weird time. You think it's nice to have it, but I'm not enjoying it. I mean, it's nice to be home in some ways. Of course, you have time to kind of think that you're going to relax, but you still have to work. So it's a bit strange for me because I don't have a job that I can just go on my computer and do it. It has to be a bit structured. So I miss that
And
structure.
then also, if you think about, there's no real weekends at the moment, right? I mean, it's like everything is a bit the same. And yeah, I guess again, with like moving enough, with planning your work, I guess that is very, very difficult for a lot of people, including myself. It's like, where's the stop and where's the go again?
No, I'll be very interested to see how we can slowly come out of it. And I think everybody will be really pleased to sort of like be on the bicycle to go somewhere or drive to work, so you can listen to the radio or, have lunch with your friends. And yes, I'm looking
And
forward to that
especially
too.
like Amsterdam, where everybody is on the bike. Indeed, I keep forgetting that factor as well. Like the other day, I was biking somewhere, and I was like, "How long have I not been on my bike?" It almost
Yes.
felt strange.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is really strange, and it's been a long time, and I do expect it to go on for another few weeks, but then, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But it's in some ways people have learnt a lot about viruses and healthcare and their bodies. And I think for me, you have to, I want people to kind of decide what sort of person they are, because there are a lot of people that just leave their health to luck.
Yeah.
And they think nothing's wrong till something goes wrong. And it's good genetics or bad genetics. And then there's a lot of people that actually realize that they can do something to help themselves be as healthy as possible, whatever that means, because that means different to different people. So I think in our line of work, we deal a lot with people that want to have a little bit more responsibility and a little bit more a guideline into how they can be healthy. And those are the people that I like to work with, of course. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You can leave your health to luck. But I wouldn't want to do it personally because I have a physical job. So for me, it's very important to keep strong and keep healthy, because my livelihood depends on me being able to bend over people, pick up people, and stand on my feet. Whereas, so you call that your functional capacity, for example. And you too, right? If you couldn't work with your hands, then you don't have a job. So I think for people that have a desk job or a computer job, it's not so obvious when something is not quite right. You have to do something in order to realize that you can or not. So, I mean, I think in some ways, maybe that divide will grow. People that continue to think that their health is just luck and whatever. I don't need to do anything. I'm healthy. And most young people are. But I think there'll be more people that come over to our group to think, actually, you know what, I could do something more in my life because I need to kind of get this under control, So it'll be
Prevention, I
interesting to
guess,
see.
prevention
Yeah.
is key, and people will understand it more and more. You see it with cooking. People cook more. People have to cook more, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's not that much of a deal, and you can actually try to make good food very healthy in an easy and fun way, and it still, yeah, again, tastes good, right? And so sports, with health, with brain health, with everything, for sure.
It's time consuming. I mean, that's the biggest drawback,
Yeah.
because it's not quick. There's not one little pill that you can take that suddenly makes you super healthy, right? Whether you have a broken bone or whether you have a soft tissue injury, it all takes time. Your body needs to heal. So in some ways, if people can learn the foundation, I think, about what healthy meals are, getting good sleep, learning how to actually move properly, I mean, that's already huge. Because I think in that way, then you have a good foundation to kind of cope with stressful events like this. Somebody getting ill, maybe you have a car accident, maybe you have a bike accident. I mean, these are things that happen all the time.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't know what your body is like till something goes wrong, isn't it?
And then it can be too late. It can be too late.
Yes, it can be too late. Or you have to find, like, it costs you more time, more energy, more money to try and get back to something that you used to have. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I certainly like it if people have only little problems. Prevention is key, but it's really hard to get people to understand that till something goes wrong. We're such a reactive society. People only take charge when something goes wrong. So maybe this will be the time for us to kind of say, like, go and get checked out, go and do some things, and then you can already kind of have a gauge of how you're doing, in 2020, no matter how old you are. Even the young people that I see, people are really stressed. And a lot of young people actually have a lot of falls and accidents and traumas that they think they're okay from, but they don't realize that they've got these, joint problems or other things. And then older people also have other stress-related conditions, high blood pressure, and you can actually do things to kind of reverse all of that. So there's still time, I think. So it'll be interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. So I am excited about the future. I don't think it'll be, I think that'll be the silver lining of this kind of horrible thing that kind of took over the world. People will kind of get back to realize what's important for them and not look at other people, like, you don't have to do CrossFit, you don't have to do yoga, you don't have to do anything. You have to be able to move as a good base, and if you can manage that, then at least you can choose to do something if you want to. And I think that that's actually really very powerful for people. That's what I try to actually teach my patients, like, kind of learn what's good for your own body in your own self, because really there's too much choice otherwise.
And that is definitely, you see that now everywhere. Like, it's on Instagram, everybody, like we said in the beginning, everybody's an expert, everybody's offering stuff. So I guess people understand it's okay not to do everything, and people understand that it's okay to find out what suits yourself as a person, as a character, as everything, right? So
yeah, I mean, in some ways, you have a long life, hopefully, so you sort of need to know what's important to you now. Like, I would actually think that if you're a 25-year-old woman or man who's very athletic, you have different goals to the 25-year-old woman who's going to have her first baby.
For sure.
So you have to kind of think of what's important to you at this point in time and to be willing to change and adapt. And my course of treatment is, of course, very different depending on what your goals are. But you have to actually be responsible for what you want and be clear about it, actually. So I actually miss that about my practice, because we have filled it with people that are, really aligned with our philosophies, and people that are coming from all different parts of their lives. We have high-end athletes to people that are like, have special needs, and everything in between. And then it's nice to work with people that kind of like want to be, like you say, the best versions of yourselves. And then and it's long. It's long.
It's a journey for sure.
For sure. But what about for you? Have you had any, like, lots of people also kind of calling you in trouble, or?
Yeah, it's definitely the home working office situation, right? And for me, I'm quite lucky since I just started an education to be an occupational therapist that is more involved with work-related problems, with also, let's say, reintegration after burnout, but also just the office setup and home office setup. So I was trying to do a lot on that field online, and people were happy with like simple tricks, because it is really simple tricks that can help. And exercise regimes. And again, like my clients, the same as you, the clients I know, it's very easy to make a program for, because you know their patterns. And then for new clients, it's a bit of a struggle, but it works as well. But same for you, same for me as for you. Like we can't wait to work again and just hope. Yeah, and I guess the same for us. We just offer people advice in way of how to prevent injuries, to stay healthy, because prevention is key. And keep moving, keep active, and stay healthy, I would say, along every line possible.
And you don't need to do all those Zoom workouts. It's okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay. And you see also that it's a little bit, it gets less and less and less, because people are just totally overflooded. They don't even see it all anymore, because your feet just doesn't pick it up anymore. But also people say like, it's fine to sit down and just read a book for once. I mean, hopefully I'm not in the state yet to read a book concentration wise. So that's still my goal, but you know,
yes, I don't have that much spare time yet. I'm working on it.
You have a baby, so let's not forget about that.
No, exactly. She requires all my time. But no, I think it's really interesting to see, I think also the fact that people have stayed home. It may suit some people to actually continue to work from home, because you don't have as many distractions. And, you know, so I think that'll actually change people's work patterns. Maybe you don't have to go into the office. And so I think it's a kind of state of change for lots of people, some good, some bad. You know, I think if you have young kids, you'll be so glad that school's open, because you know, you're not a teacher, you're their parents. My friends that have
3 jobs at the same time, right? Because you have to be a teacher, you have to be parent, housewife, and do your own job also.
Well, and work, yes, exactly. And then people that are and then people that have no children, perhaps it can give them a little bit of time to think, oh, do I really like this work? This time for them, they can be a little bit more reflective. You know, it can, I mean, I don't want to be sort of like there's such silver linings, it's such a horrible time, because of course it's such a global disaster, but you have to look, I think, for positives in every little bad situation also. So I think if we can try to, for me personally, I'm going to use this time to work on the business, see how I'd like to go back to work. You know, do I like the way my life is going? And actually sort of decide those very important things before. Because if not, you just kind of continue, don't you? So now at least I kind of appreciated having a little step back. I think, I don't like actually the way I run this part of my business, and I can change it. But personally for me, I'm not very big on going online or having these platforms, so it's such a huge learning curve. And I don't know, I mean, I also chiropractic is for people to come and in my practice take a break from their online lives, you know. So I really, even though telehealth will be something that's huge in the future with your doctor, perhaps you don't even need to make an appointment, you can show them the rash. And that's nice. But for my work, no, I'll always need to see you. I'll always need to kind of put my hands on you and do something and actually like perform my treatment through my hands. I think that's just, it's very old fashioned that way. So, and I think that there'll be,
it will never change, because people want and need the interaction as well, right? There is like, I mean, to be touched and to be, you know, it's like all in a professional matter. I mean, it's very, very important for just the human being, I guess. It's
yes. And of course our bodies are still, you know, old fashioned bodies, even though we live in a very modern world. So and the new modern world.
The new normal modern world.
Exactly. No, I kind of, it'll be interesting. No, that's all I can think of, actually.
Very great talking to you. I mean, thank you for your time, because again, we have time, but we're all busy. So I really appreciate your time. Crazy. And I hope we see each other soon in real life. And
for a real hug. No, it's been great.
As usual. And
no, I think this is such a great thing that you're doing, and it is interesting to talk to other people to see. For some people, actually, going online has been the greatest push, you know, for their online business. And for me, it'll be interesting to see. I think it's a bit in between, but I look forward to seeing you in person for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I wish you a very nice weekend, Sunitha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
See you soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.